But Andrew, you bring up a very interesting point on Mikal Bridges. There's been a lot of dissection of his shot. Is it a new shot? Did he change his form? He's been great shooting from the baseline beyond the arc, not as good on non-baseline threes. What are you seeing from his shot? Does it look different to you? Does it look like uncomfortable? Is there a hitch there? What do you see?
Yeah, the energy transfer is still not great, and it's not really affecting him from mid-range. But from three, even when he makes shots, I don't like how it looks. And it's going to be interesting to see if he can stay consistent throughout the course of this season. And as I said, again, I think he's really the X factor. I actually think for them to succeed in the playoffs, we're going to have to see him initiate more. And earlier in the season, when the shot wasn't falling, he was losing confidence. And I feel like now, since he's making a few, he's starting to gain confidence. But I do think he still needs to make a few minor tweaks to that jump shot for him to be absolutely consistent from three, like we saw against the team they played against last night, his former team, the Suns.
Yeah, and he did hit one of those non-baseline threes, and he looked very much in rhythm early on in that game. Shaun, I think there's been a lot of concern and just some people are underwhelmed by Bridges' performance on both sides of the ball so far. I don't see it that way. I see it as early in the season. I think that ultimately he'll be who he has been his whole career. Where are you on Bridges? What's your assessment so far?
I'm there with you, Ian. I think it's early. I think there's a lot of adjustment to have happen. And I also take into account that, like, not only is he adjusting to a new role, but the entire team is adjusting to kind of a new format. And so he has to find himself within that. He has to find where to pick his spots and just kind of get an understanding of where that is. I wasn't the most thrilled about him changing his jumper when he got here. But, I mean, personally with me, it's just like, hey, it's changed now. Whatever you're going to do with it, just figure it out. And I feel like he's figuring it out over the course of time. I still feel confident when he puts shots up. I want him to continue to do so. And, you know, he needs to be more consistent defensively, but so does the entire team. And I think that, you know, even last year with Dante DiVincenzo in the beginning of the year, he was coming up the bench and giving us 7 points a game. He was, kind of sporadic. And then by the end of the season, he's averaging almost 30 down the stretch. It's just you got to give guys some time to get acclimated. And I think that once he does and we're fully clicking on all cylinders, it's going to be beautiful.
Interesting thing to me, too, being in that locker room over the past couple weeks when these guys were home. Josh Hart, a few times, unsolicited, has brought up Mikal Bridges and the criticism around Bridges. After the first game of the year, he said it's stupid to talk about his shot and to worry about his shot because he's a career 38% three-point shooter, and he's going to be fine. He works too hard and he cares about the right things. He'll be fine. And then more recently, he talked about everybody wanting Bridges to be perfect and the idea that Bridges can impact the game many different ways, even if he's not shooting it well. He's a winning player. Hart said that's why you go get him. And he said, we gave up 5 high school players to get him, so we're fine. And so I just think, it's interesting because it's not like people are asking Josh about that, but he's bringing it up organically on his own. And I'm wondering, Andrew, just a locker room dynamic there. What do you think Josh doing that publicly means to Bridges and to the group?
I love it. I mean, it's still the Nova Knicks. You have to support your teammates. He knows Mikal is a major key for this team to win it all. And I'd love to see, we saw Mikal Bridges with the Brooklyn Nets look like an all-star, even all-NBA type player. And I think there's always a chance he could get back to that. Like from what I said before, the jump shot doesn't look great right now, but confidence has so much to do with it. And I love that Josh Hart, his Nova teammate, is instilling that in him.
Speaking of Nova, we lost Shaun for a minute, but he'll be back. If you were on that team, right, they signed you, but you went to, let's say you went to Gonzaga, and you come in and you have these Nova Knicks, would you feel funny about that dynamic? Would it be would it be a thing for you at all going into that locker room if you're new on that team?
Absolutely not, because I think you have to fit into the identity of what this team is all about. And they are the Nova Knicks, and they are a Tibbs coach team, and you have to double down on grittiness, toughness, and just the Nova Knicks style of play. To be a professional, you have to fit in with the identity of the team. And if you're thinking any other way, it's not going to last. You're not going to last long in the NBA.
I'll just say briefly that I think some players during this Nova Nick tenure have thought about that. It has been on their mind, and it's just interesting for me, just because these guys are human beings. And you in the inner circle? Are you out? I don't think that's impacting anybody in there right now. Speaking of campaign, earlier in the week, he said, "Listen, these guys, they have their own thing here, but they welcome me with open arms. I feel very comfortable. We've got a great thing in the locker room. We're able to joke around off the court, and we're able to hold each other accountable on the court." And Campaign's been in a lot of locker rooms, and he said, this locker room, people like each other, and that's important in the NBA. So Campaign, one example of a non-Nova Nick who has fit in and feels good about his place here. For you, Shaun, talking about Campaign, I mean, he has scored the ball really well recently. Miles McBride will be back. We'll get into that a little bit later. But with Cam, how do you see him fitting into this hierarchy, and what have you seen from him so far?
Cam's done an excellent job, and I'm not going to lie. I wasn't necessarily – I mean, he's a Knicks, so I'm rooting for him, but I wasn't rooting for Cam when he got here. I wanted Tyler Kolek to play, and I wanted him to be in the rotation. But Cam has done an excellent job to the point where I don't even bang that drum, because he's come up the bench. He's done what we needed him to do. And beyond the shooting, Cam has never seen a shot he didn't like, ever. And I think it's hilarious. But I went to the Pacers game and I went to the Cavs game. I went to shoot around. And so for the Cavs game, I was a shoot around for Cam. And I'm just watching him, and I was like, this is why you shoot from wherever. I don't blame you. If I worked out and I shot like this, I would shoot from wherever in the game as well. And so it kind of, seeing him work, raised my confidence in his shot. So I can only imagine what it does for his confidence. And my main thing with Campaign has been defensively. I mean, he's up and he's picking up full court. He's, aggressive. He's on the ball. He's doing a great job. He's bringing the energy. And so I think just his energy is infectious, and I think he fits in perfectly. And I'm excited. I know that he's going to make some big shots for us in the playoffs, and he's going to have some big moments, and he's going to be a Garden favorite for a very long time.